who have attended, which is predictably perhaps huge. Wonderful to see everyone here. Welcome everyone on behalf of Ross and Jane, the Dearden and Mullen families, to this celebration of the life of Margaret. I'm not sure if people outside can hear. I'm not sure that there's much I can do about that either. I'm sorry. My name is Eric Alexander. I've been asked to MC this afternoon's proceeding. Could I ask you first, if you haven't thought to turn your phone off, to do so now? I probably haven't turned my own off. I'd like to start at the outset. I would like to express on behalf of everyone here our profound sadness on the passing of Margaret and our deepest sympathy and warmest regards to Ross, Jane and Tim and their boys Albie and Oscar, to Margaret's parents, Anne and Stumpy Mullen, to her sister Jennifer's husband Jeff, and to her brother Albert and sister-in-law Judy, and to the many nieces and nephews and their children. Before going any further, I would like to acknowledge the Dharawal people who were custodians of this beautiful land for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years before Europeans arrived. For me, and I think for all of us here, this is not some form of tokenism or being woke or ticking boxes. I think we all have a very strong sense of social justice in this room and of fairness, and we know that hasn't been extended to everyone in this country, most notably, of course, the Aborigines. Those of us who forged strong friendships here in this community, black and white, working and living side by side, and who lived through the discovery of the Karachi man, and through the setting up of the embassy and the picket, have very deep feelings about what reconciliation means. I might mention at this stage that Mark worked tirelessly as a roster monster for years, along with many others here. I see quite a few monsters in this room, to keep the picket staffed around the clock for 24 hours a day in what was to become, I believe, one of the longest, if not the longest, 24-hour picket in the world. This large gathering here today is testament to the deep affection and high respect in which Margaret was held. I'd like to especially thank those who have come a long way to be here today. We have someone from Tasmania, from Brisbane, Queanbeyan, the Blue Mountains, Central Coast, Sydney, and lots of locals. I'd also like to acknowledge those people who are unable to be here today, who would have liked to have been here but couldn't. And foremost of those are Margaret's parents, Anne and Stumpy, now living in Tuncurry, who were prevented from being here by age and distance. As you know, this is not a funeral, a private cremation having been held at Port Kembla on February the 10th. Farewell rituals are always something of a double act, a balancing act between grief on the one hand and celebration of the life on the other. I think by separating the two, hopefully we can mostly come down on the side of celebration today, but that's not to deny, of course, the deep grief that everyone is feeling. It's a celebration of a life, in the case of Margaret, a beautiful life, well lived. Some of you will have known Margaret better than others, but even those who knew her well will only know part of the picture. Our aim is to fill the picture out, and to do that, I will start with some of the facts. Ross will deliver his eulogy, followed by Brother Bert and Jane and friends. And should anyone wish to add a recollection or a story or a poem or sing a song or whatever you might like to contribute, please gather your thoughts as we progress. So some of the facts of Margaret's life are as follows. She was born on the 9th of September 1955, the first of 3 children, to Geoffrey, known as Stumpy, and Anne Mullen, who ran a dairy farm at Gloucester. Her sister Jennifer came along about 3 years later, and Brother Bert about 5 years after that. Margaret attended Gangat, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, rural school. I'm guessing not a big school, but 2 teachers. 1 teacher, not a big, size doesn't always matter. Followed by St Joseph's Catholic Primary School for 5th and 6th classes. She was then sent to Lochinvar, a Catholic girls' boarding school. It was, as you can tell, a Catholic family. From there she went on to Newcastle Teachers College, and Bert recalls a trip that she did to New Zealand, the first of many overseas trips, an indication of the spirit of adventure that lay beneath that placid surface. She started teaching at Gilgandra and then headed off with her friend Mark Matthews. Is Mark here? Thank you. Oh, you're Mark. Okay. On a 6-month adventure to Europe, and the story's a bit blank there, Mark, so if you could prep on this occasion. On her return, she taught at Tumbarumba and then at Minto. I hope I've got these right. I wouldn't want to swear to it in a court of law that I've got the chronology exactly right. Around this time, she met a handsome young engineer called Ross, and then there were many miles put on the, I'm not sure what car she drove at that stage, but it made many trips from Ambervale to Singleton. When Ross moved back to Wollongong, he'd been here as a young graduate from Gundagai, their relationship took a more serious turn, and they moved in together. They were married at Glenfer Bray on the 28th of January 1984. Other teaching appointments included Mount St Thomas, and I think she was there, Jane, when you came along, and everything changed. Finally, she did a lot of work, I know, at Berkeley West, and there may well be some of her colleagues here from some of those schools. But I'll leave the rest of this story to Ross to tell, or as much of it as he wishes to. Ross.
thanks to everyone who helped us along our journey. Our doctors, particularly St George Nuclear Medicine, and the community palliative care teams. We were so fortunate that firstly Trevor and then just last Easter Karen were there to spring into action at the right time. We mightn't have lasted this long otherwise. Particularly since October though, friends, neighbours and family have rallied, overwhelming us with gifts and support. I also want to thank everyone who's so willingly lent a hand today, and Eric in particular, who's been a great help to me. We wanted today to be at this surf club where we've been privileged to be members since Jane was a nipper. This club is the heart of a wonderful community that has given us a lifetime of memories and friendship networks that are so important to us. The theme today is Gershwin's Summertime, and the living is easy. Marg loved that tune and would always ask for it at our piano bar. I don't think the words were particularly significant. She just loved the relaxed and dreamy, carefree mood of it. Eric's also already told you that Margaret was born in Gloucester and lived her early years at Wallenbar on her parents' dairy farm about 14 kilometres from Gloucester. Anne and Stumpy Mullen are now in their 90s and unfortunately they can't travel to be here today. We share their grief as now they have lost both their daughters. Their son Albert and his wife Judy have travelled from Tallwoods near Foster, and Jeff, is Jeff here? Let's actually see Jeff. Oh, g'day Jeff. Jeff, our brother-in-law, has travelled from Lismore to share this day with us, and that's really great. So we've always already covered that Margaret went to primary school at Gloucester, boarding school at Lochinvar, and some of her friends are here today, and I know those old friendships formed at school and Teachers College were very important to her. It was through her school friend Mark Matthews, as has been mentioned, that I met while I was at Works Engineer at Singleton, and I owe a huge debt to